Still, is that one firm or two upstairs?
I have two attorneys up there. Bill Robertson used to be there.
That's so nice of it. Yeah.
I think it works. So we'll see.
Okay. It is 3:00.
We've got,
Good.
yeah, we're ready to go, Mr. Mayor, if you're
Well, I
ready.
thought you said 5 then, so.
No, it's
I'm
3.
thinking- Yeah, let's go ahead and start the agenda. Okay, Madam City Manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good afternoon. We have a large work session today with a lot of items to cover, so appreciate everybody being here. Our first item this afternoon is an update from VGSC. So Heath Dillard, who is the President and CEO of VGSC, is going to lead us off today with an information on their economic impact to the city of Greenville. And Heath usually comes and visits us once or twice a year to give us these updates. So Heath, welcome. Glad for you to be here.
Thank you for having me on a cold, wet Monday. Excited to share an update. All things fiscal 25 in our shop are audited, and we're excited to share that annual report with you. You have the slides in advance. I'll pause and spend longer on some than others. But wanted to pause on our mission and just sort of reiterate the point here that the work that we do really aligns with the priorities of the city. We believe in managing tourism and leveraging tourism as a means to elevate the quality of life and prosperity for our community. There's several ways that we believe in which it does that, and I'll highlight some of these as we go forward. Also here today to thank you for our continued partnership with the city of Greenville. Our fiscal 25 total revenues for Visit Greenville were just under $16 million, almost $5 million of which came from the city of Greenville, 1.75 million in local A-tax and 1.49 million in state A-tax come from those statutory parts of the fund, and then our both in incremental marketing and in event-related support apply for grants through the accommodations tax committee, which is then confirmed through this body here for an additional 1.73 million. So combined, just under 5 million in our total $16 million budget. And we thank you for your continued partnership in that. We believe we did well on your investments this year, and we'll continue to show you a little bit how we did that. So we leveraged those public and private dollars through really robust sales, marketing, and communication campaigns. We took the Greenville SC message to almost 22 million people across the United States. We have a third party measure the effectiveness of our advertising every year, keep us honest. And what we really want to know is how many people are we influencing that would not otherwise come. We know over the past 2 decades, Greenville has become more known and more widely loved by more and more people. So we're not necessarily interested in figuring out who all came, but who we specifically influenced. And out of those 22 million travelers that we reached with paid media, we influenced 1.5 million of those leisure trips. The spending that they had in our retail shops and our restaurants and bars and hotels and entertainment venues created an annual economic impact of 453 million, which produced just under $34 million in state and local taxes. We are able to track people sort of through that interest funnel in multiple ways, but number one has predominantly been our website. And so we topped 5.1 million website visitors in fiscal 25. Nearly 14,000 people every single day are making their way to visitgreenvillesc.com. Some of those are still looking for that trip inspiration where maybe they have not yet selected a destination by which to travel. And so they're still choosing between us and several other cities. Some have already decided to come here, and they're using the website to plan how they maximize that experience. So they still haven't yet maybe booked their hotel, or they haven't made their restaurant reservations, or they know they're coming in 2 weeks, and they're trying to figure out what festivals or events are going on that they can attend while they travel here. So digital is still very much a huge part of what we do. 272,000 engaged social followers. So those are people liking and sharing and commenting on all the things that we do across various social media platforms. And yet we still have 120,000 people reaching out and requesting destination guides. So those print copies both downstairs in the Visitor Info Center at the airport, and many, many people going to our website requesting those to be mailed directly to their home. That number continues to increase year after year as well. PR has long been a tool by which we've reached more potential audience than our media budget would allow. It's been very favorable to this market. We measure the impact in that bottom right-hand corner. How much money would it take to be in these publications or on these news programs or otherwise? What would it cost us for the same type of coverage? And in fiscal 25, we generated 170 stories with the advertising value equivalent of almost $54 million. So if we spent $5 million in actual paid advertising, we got 10-to-1 coverage on that money. And so, some of the top accolades there, you see at the top, this market continues to show very well when we invite journalists to come see it for themselves. We hosted 63 of those in fiscal 25. This is an FY25 report, so I don't want to spoil too much of what we've already seen. But in Q1 of fiscal 26, thanks to several things that we've got going on in the culinary space, that ad equivalent has already doubled in the first 3 months of fiscal 26. So a lot going on in the PR world, lots of stories and things going on about Greenville SC. Our sales team has been our road warriors. Collectively, they were on the road 31 weeks this past year. But in addition, the same way that PR professionals, this market really sells itself for PR professionals, it does the same for meeting planners as well. We hosted site visits, FAM tours, and even meeting planner specific conferences in the last 12 months, hosting 225 of those people. That work, along with the work from prior years, produced group events totaling more than 185,000 group rooms booked for this year and years into the future for nearly 250,000 attendees. Our group efforts total $152 million in economic impact and produced over $11 million in state and local taxes. The third leg of the BGSC stool is our destination experiences team. So we joke that when the sales team sells it, they pass the baton and it's on to this team to make sure that they can do all the things the sales team promised. And so out of 270 some odd events, our destination experiences team worked 133 of those. Those meeting planners left with a net promoter score of 98, which is just absolute, that's not just Visit Greenville, that's all of the partners throughout the community. That's meeting planners basically saying, I will tell my colleagues, my friends, and my family that Greenville, South Carolina is a wonderful place to host conferences, conventions, meetings, and events. We hosted more than 10,000 people downstairs at our Visitor Info Center. And over the last year, we certified 415 local residents as certified tourism ambassadors. And so those are people who volunteer their time. They're reading a booklet that's, I don't know, several hundred pages thick on the history of our community. And they're really becoming the voice of our market. They're answering simple questions when people look confused on the street about where the restaurant is or where the parking garage is. But they're really serving as brand ambassadors for this community. So we're really proud of that. That number is also just top 600. So it's building steam quite quickly as well. And then how does all that work actually impact people here in our community? So we're at the stage of an economic cycle where things are starting to moderate. The United States overall is flat, maybe even slightly down. Within our region, things happen to be a bit better, but Greenville County hotel revenue in fiscal 25 grew 15.5%, which was second only to Columbia. And so you can see some of the markets that we compare ourselves to in the Southeast listed here. Most of those had modest growth in fiscal 25 while we continued to accelerate. Some of that was in the hurricane relief efforts in the 6 months after Hurricane Helene pushed some of those revenues higher. But even in the first quarter, we saw our market way outpacing those in our competitive set.
What happened in Colombia?
Yeah, I was gonna
They
say.
typically see us, a couple of things in an election year, they typically do pretty well. So there's a lot of business and government and travel to Colombia in an election year, which the back half of 24 saw a lot of that. They had a handful of major sporting events, including Liverpool and Manchester United in the football stadium. They also have seen quite a bit new hotel supply. So as supply grew, so could their demand and therefore revenue as well. So that revenue number is as much about having new inventory in the market as it is. In calendar year 2024, visitors spent $2.5 billion within our Greenville County. That spending generated $201 million in state and local taxes. And if we look at the role that taxes play in this community generated by visitors, it subsidizes a lot of the things that we as local residents get to enjoy. Increased public safety, entertainment, recreation, and lots of things that, I don't think most people connect to the role that visitors play. It also continues to be a major labor driver in this market. We have over 50,000 people working in leisure and hospitality, but visitor demand supports jobs in all aspects. It's not just leisure and hospitality. It's real estate, finance, insurance, it's construction. And so 1 in every 25 jobs in Greenville County exists because of the demand that visitors create within Greenville County. That visitor demand generates $655 million annually in personal income. So those are the wages and income going back into our residents' homes, helping fund things like housing and childcare and transportation and basics essentials that families need. It also has what we call a halo effect. So our organization doesn't talk about things like moving here or relocating a business here or starting a career here or going to college here. But what we see is that when people get a sense of those visitor amenities that we are introducing them to, is that there's this halo effect across many of those attributes. And so what we say is the attributes that are attractive in a place for someone to visit are often attractive for someone to want to live. And so everybody wants a thriving art and cultural community, great sports and entertainment assets that they get to enjoy, great restaurants that they can eat at with their family. And so those are things that are very attractive to potential visitors, but they're also attractive to things that people looking to relocate are too. And so we see sort of this reciprocal effect that as you build a place that people want to visit, it also creates a place people want to live. And as people want to live, it makes us more attractive to businesses. Over the last 3 years, it's been important for us to understand the pulse of this community. And so we have annually measured resident sentiment across a wide variety of attributes. But 2 that are the headline of our resident sentiment report annually is, do you believe that Greenville has benefited from tourism, which 98% of Greenville County residents do? And then we secondly ask, do you believe that tourism is good for this community? And so what we saw from FY24 to FY25 is a 12 percentage point, 17% jump in that. And these are specifically for city residents. We do segment them, those who live in the city, and then we aggregate all other municipalities and unincorporated areas as well. And so what we really want to know, and we're going to bring this in-house and do this on a quarterly basis so that we can keep up as close as we can to real-time sentiment going on. But it's good for us to be able to see the work that we're doing is resonating down to the resident level. What you see here is sort of those top 2 boxes on a 5-point scale, those who strongly agree and agree. The other 17% largely fall in the neutral category, while less than 5% would either somewhat disagree or strongly disagree. So lots of people feeling the role that tourism has played in this thriving community. And so I'll start to summarize just by collapsing all the ways in which we've leveraged public funding over the past year between the city's investment, county's investment, and state of South Carolina's investment, a total of just under $9 million. We're able to leverage that public investment in the work that we do with an additional nearly $7 million. And we've been able to put that money to work to generate over $605 million in total economic impact on nearly $407 million in money spent directly into Greenville businesses by visitors, generating $45.1 million in state and local taxes. So a 5-to-1 return on a tax-to-tax basis is quite significant. And so we're really proud of that work and really proud of our team and the work that they do. We want to be good stewards of you all's money and ensure that we're getting these really strong returns year in and year out. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Gibson.
Yeah, just that number that you just gave us about the tax to tax return,
Yes.
what's the breakdown for the city?
The city enjoys about 2/3 of all visitor spending.
Okay,
And
so,
so if I were to say 30, I mean, I'm estimating here. so
Yeah.
30 million, that's state and local. So I have to do the math to give you an exact,
guesstimate.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, if it's 2/3, it's
But
roughly.
but the city, yeah, but that includes some of the state money as well.
Mm.
2/3 of all visitor spending happens inside the city of Greenville.
Okay.
For all of Greenville County. That's a rough estimate.
Okay, what I'm trying to figure out is, I think the number that you said before was that we give you guys about 5 million.
Correct.
Just trying to figure out what is the direct return for us, not to make, and I understand there's all these other, the halo effect and all these other things and stuff like that, but just for that tax to tax number that we're talking about, just so I can get a full understanding on what the city's return is on what we do.
I would have to get that number back to you.
Okay,
Yeah, but we can do that.
cool, thank you.
It'd be a rough estimate,
All right,
but I can get to you.
cool.
Thank you. Councilmember Dow.
This is another benefit, but Heath, your slide had 1 in every 25 jobs in the county is in tourism, which would include F&B, retail.
Yeah, it is a
hotel.
little bit of a different stat than what, so we say 50,000 or plus people work in hospitality and leisure.
In the
Because
county.
Yes, and that's 1 in 9 jobs. But what that stat was saying is that visitors create demand that supports 1 in 25 jobs, which is not relegated strictly to hospitality and leisure businesses. The way visitors create demand on this market create jobs outside of that. So they create jobs that require real estate professionals
Okay,
and insurance professionals and beyond hospitality and leisure.
but even still to that, I mean, the one I can always zero in on is 1 in 9. 1 in 9, and is that, I can't remember if that's a city number, county number?
Yeah, it's a county number.
Okay, in the city, would you not guess it's a higher proportion?
I would certainly think the vast majority of our hotels and restaurants are in the city. I
Yeah.
don't know whether it's, it depends on where people live versus.
No, I'm talking, that's
Yeah.
a good distinct, like they might live in the county, but their job is in the city of
Yeah.
Greenville.
Yeah, we have higher density of
Right.
hospitality and leisure businesses. in the
Right,
city.
so far
About
more,
2/3 of that spending happens in the city. limits.
right, so better than 1 in 9 of the jobs in the city are tourism related. Is that a fair statement? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Heath?
Just a
Yes,
thought.
Mayor.
Talked to Sam about this some time ago. It'd be interesting to do a bit of a deeper dig on downtown small businesses in terms of percent of their sales that are tourism related or any kind of metrics we might be able to gather from some of our major retailers downtown. We all know we know the restaurants, we know the restaurants are different thing would be more specific on that, I guess, but certainly hotels and restaurants, but
Yeah.
a lot more on retail, small business than I think people have any idea. But every time you talk to a retailer downtown, they'll quickly tell you that the tourist visitors they buy more things and pick up more things than the locals probably do. We haven't
We
really
do hear
gathered
that
that
quite a
data
bit.
ourselves.
I don't have the numbers on what percentage that is, but.
And whatever
we do
numbers
hear
we're
that.
dealing with, a conference center downtown will make this almost. Might be.
A question to that end. How far in advance typically are we booking convention center larger groups?
Yeah, it's grown in the past couple of years. This market historically has been like 12 to 24. It's up to about 18 to 30 months. So we're already sourcing events that'll be here in 29.
And no doubt we're turning away what we don't have the right size to accommodate in this moment. But there is definitely a market for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, our team is pretty consistently working 2 years at least ahead.
Right.
Can you say anything about our fun events happening upcoming?
Yeah, we are excited to be the host location of the first ever Michelin Guide of the American South. It'll be a private event hosted at the Peace Center a week from tonight. So we'll have 700 restaurant owners, chefs, international media, and tourism professionals from across the Southeast. Many of those chefs being awarded their first ever Michelin recognition. So we're really excited to be the host destination for that.
Yes, we are.
Second.
That was very exciting.
So just order up better weather than today and get all.
I know, I don't know what to say to you about that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Heath.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heath.
All right.
Safety communications.
Heath, are you going to come up and introduce
I
Dustin?
certainly will. I'll let him
All right.
about that. and I'll talk.
All right, Dustin, come on up to the table, and
Go.
I think you've got some other members of your command staff here too.
I do. Mayor and council and Madam City Manager, we're glad to be with you today. Dustin Sherbert is our communications director. If y'all haven't met Dustin yet, he does an outstanding job, helps a lot of our smaller agencies around. He's not just the communication supervisor, but he also helps program radios for everybody and for us especially. He's on our state team. So he goes with them and helps them a lot with communication. So he does a lot more than just our communication, and we appreciate him for that. We do have some of our team members and supervisors and leadership here. I know he's going to get into them and talk about them because they're award winners, and he's going to talk about that. They've won some recent awards. And so we're very proud of them, but I'm proud of my communications team. If y'all will recall, when I gave out, we're sending out those My 90 surveys to our customers, our people that we respond to. We also asked them questions about our dispatchers and how that communication went. And if you recall, they were getting a 90% or better mark on that positive rating. And this is part of that team. So these are the ones that answer the phones when you call 911, and they're there 24/7, just like the officers. And they're very professional and do a great job. So glad to have them here today. And I'll turn it over to Dustin for his presentation.
Good afternoon. Just real quick, want to introduce some of my staff. Darlene Holbrooks, she is my assistant manager. Teresa Ledoux, she is the TAC. She's over NCIC and all the FBI files, SLED files, and all that fun stuff. Jessica Dozpat's shift supervisor. Hannah Dillenbeck, she is a CS2, which is Communication Specialist 2, and she's an award winner for the Palmetto Award this year through the State APCO Conference. And then Brittany Logan is another one of my shift supervisors at night. So
Brittany's on night shift, so she is come in.
She falls asleep.
We also got Major Blair here with us today.
Thanks, Blair.
And our newest
Our
major.
newest major.
That's right.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks very much. All right, Dustin, the floor is yours, sir.
all right. This is kind of quick. I'll go through and I'll have plenty of time for questions if anybody has them. The Communications Division of the Greenville City Police Department. So currently we are staffed with 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're approved for 33 staff members, but currently operating at 31. We have 2 more that are getting ready. We're going to start looking for those here soon. Just brought in 5. They're finishing up all the new hire information and that stuff. So that's the closest we've been to fully staffed in about 4 years. And it feels pretty good. Shift structure, we run 4 shifts, 5 to 6 operators, including the supervisor. Each shift does the 12.33 hours, just like on duty police officers do. And then that's 86.31 hours per every 2 weeks. The day shift is running from 0640 to 7. And then the night shift is running 6:40 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then we're implementing a mid shift in January. That'll be a 3 to 3 shift. Our call volume during those times is the higher. So we bring in extra staff. So just real quick, the public safety answering point, this dedicated facility is receiving and managing emergency calls. Here at the city of Greenville, we're a primary public safety answering point. So we're the first point of reception for 911. When someone calls 911 within the city, the Greenville City Police Department, our PSAP gets that call And depending on the jurisdiction or depending on the services they need, that call can be transferred out. The things we transfer out for are EMS, medical, those go to Greenville County EMS, who's a secondary PSAP. And we transfer out for other jurisdictions, of course, small Greenville County, things like that. But secondary PSAPs such as Greenville EMS, Greenville County EMS, those are the ones that have to be transferred out. They don't receive 911 directly. These are the call stats. 25 is year to date. At the end of September, haven't pulled this much yet. So total calls in 2024 was to 235,563. Total calls right now is 152,493. That's actually down 8% from 2024. So everything else is trending. So 67,091 calls that were processed, and then 45,000 this year to date. The big one here, we like to point it out, is the 911 disconnects. That's, so for the city of Greenville, our policy for the police department is if we receive a 911 disconnect, we have to make an attempt to call that number back. We call it back once, we leave a message, if it's available for callback. Then we call it back again, just to double check, and then we set a call, we enter a call, close it out to show that we processed that call, it was received, and this is the steps we've done to try to mitigate that call. That takes about a 10-minute process. So I put it on here for workload analysis just to show the workload that these guys do every day. PD calls dispatched, roughly 90,000. This year, we're at 86 right now. It's still a small increase, but it's still right at level. But we also do count those 911 disconnects in there, so it doesn't, there's no rise in crime. Fire department calls dispatched, 16,000. This year, we're looking at 11,000. That's up for 4% from last year. So our call volume and call processing for fire department calls are up. So the standard that was put out by APCO, which governs 911 operations within the nation, they require that all 911 calls should be answered in 10 seconds or less. That's 2 rings. Right? Here, so last year, 2024, we called it 90%. So we answered all 911 calls within 93% of those were answered within 10 seconds, 96.22% this year. So all our 911 calls have been answered within about 96.22% within the first 2 rings. So that's awesome for these guys. That's a lot of hard work. The state standard is 85%, which I don't entertain. I want to go above 90, if not 94. I want to go above those levels. Again, so just staff completed 10,000 hours of training last year. So this includes continuing education, conferences, classes such as call taking classes. We actually did a crisis negotiation training and things like that. So it just shows that we're putting that input. These are employee recognitions since taking over in 2022. I've had the awards put out. So a lot of them are the APCO NINA awards. So that's just state recognition. These are all nominated by their peers and they're voted on outside the state and then brought back in. So we make nominations. This year's we had honorable mention for 911 Center of the Year at the annual South Carolina NINA conference. We lost out to Greenville County. I don't count them. But it's a big jump from where we were. And these guys, they deserve it. Hannah Dillenbeck, as I said, she received the Palmetto Award this year. And then Teresa Ledoux got the Public Safety Employee of the Year, presented by Bob Jones at the Alan Jacobs breakfast. So Teresa's job, she is the one that manages all the NCIC or the National Crime Information Center data and keeps us compliant within the system. She governs and oversees this process, but that's the amount of entries. So it can be wanted, missing, stolen vehicles, dangerous subjects, known to be violent. And then 1,924 hit confirmations. Those are basically where we transfer back and forth to other agencies. If they have a wanted person that they get out with, it belongs to us, they'll send us a hit. And we have so many times to get back to that. That's the criminal histories we ran, 1,300 records cleared off NCIC, and then record validations. Each record has to be validated up to 3 times before it can stay on the system. For accuracy, we don't want to get names, date of births, things like that wrong. Differences and such issues in the future. And then second party checks, that's also part of that validation process. And then expungements. So this is kind of the life of a 911 call when it comes into Greenville. The 911 call initiates. So as soon as you dial that last one, the center is notified right then. That's how we get a lot of these different things. People hit that last one, they go, oh, they'll hang up. It still comes through every time. The operator gives a normal greeting and asks for the location within that greeting. The reason for that is if we can at least get your location, we can have someone on the way in case you disconnect or anything before we can call you back. Qualifying questions, do you need police, fire, EMS? Once again, we transfer out the EMS. So then we just qualify police and fire. If it's a police or fire response, they triage the call to determine the appropriate agency response codes. So that's going to be our problem nature codes, assault, welfare checks, things like that. The key thing here is the question where, like I said, we already went over that on the first. What and when did it happen? You'll see right here where it says high priority drop point. If the interaction is going right now, that's where the operator will drop the call to the dispatcher. The dispatcher will grab that call and give it out to units while the call taker is still on the phone. So what that does is it allows officers on the way, but also still getting updates from the victim or from the parties that are on the scene. So there's no delay in dispatch. And then once that high priority drop is done, that's when we go in to say, okay, who's involved, names, date of birth, descriptions, things like that, and then our weapons in the call or weapons involved. And that also helps upgrade or downgrade that call for service. And then the police or fire dispatch side, once again, that dispatcher receives that call for service in the queue. So we have a little screen down at the bottom. They receive it down in the queue. They go ahead and have dispatch units and equipment based on the call type and the policy. Certain policies require more units than others, especially on the police fire side. Updates are provided to the unit based on additional information from the caller. Once again, that's where that call taker is staying on the phone with that person and gathering that information. So when officers arrive, they have more intel than what they would have just without all that information. And then the dispatcher will maintain contact to fulfill needs and requests of the officers. Some key points, like I said, medical calls are transferred out. If you do call 911 with a medical issue, they're going to hold on for EMS and transfer you over. Police fire calls are dispatched directly by the 911 center. It's the same room. They're pretty much probably sitting right next to each other. Coordination is essential for timely and accurate responses for police, fire, and medical services. And then continuous communication helps ensure situation updates and resource coordination. So as long as we're staying informed with the officer and giving them information, the better it helps to negotiate that. One of the things that's driving right now is the next generation 911. This is the enhancement to 911 that is pushing the text to 911, the video, and the data sharing aspects of this. So it improves response times greatly, but also improves situational awareness for officers currently, and also integrates modern technologies like smartphones. We've implemented a lot of this We work with the county a lot with their E911 office to incorporate a lot of these systems into what we do now. We're able to send out video requests. If you're on the phone, say, hey, can I send you a video request? You can take that video request and hit it, and it operates your camera where something can be seen live. Also, we were one of the first, when I got here 14 years ago, we were one of the first ones, well, Greenville County was one of the first ones in the state to implement text to 911. And that still operates today. It's always monitored, and it doesn't go down routinely. And then better coordinated with emergency services. So this allows that text to 911. If someone's coming through our jurisdiction and they're texting that 911, say they're in the back of a car, and as they get outside our jurisdiction, we're able to seamlessly push that call over to Greenville County or to, Spartanburg County through those processes.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, questions, Councilmember Dow.
I have a few. The first one is logistics.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm thinking about that flow chart you had where it sends the red line out to Greenville County EMS. And yet, our firefighters that obviously have a paramedic on board are typically the first one there for city residents. So is it going to Greenville County EMS and they're deploying our firefighters?
Yeah, so what they do is as they do they do what's called an EMD or emergency medical dispatching.
Okay.
And it's qualifying questions. If you ever get on the phone with them, they'll ask you to address, are they breathing, are they awake? So as they do that, it starts cycling in our system. Once it hits that final disposition, it spawns us a call to our fire department,
Okay.
which we usually dispatch in between 12 to 14 seconds.
Okay. They're fast. They're good. This is the one department where you can hire right out of high school with a high school diploma, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
At 18?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we offer, internships or anything like that in this area?
I don't know
I
if we
didn't
use for
know.
any internships.
The only problem we have with that is, they deal with, so that NCI.
I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying.
Streets and things like that.
So my answer.
Able to review those things, and as you're sitting there with the dispatcher, there's a lot of personal information.
As I said, I'm not saying you should, I was just asking if we do, but it is our quickest pathway for someone with a high school diploma to enter law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. Do we have a way to measure the impact on our 911 calls tied to our efforts in annexation? In other words, can you collect the data that would show, we've annexed a lot in the Fair Forest Way area, we've annexed a lot in the West Greenville Hampton Station area as of late, and at some point, that's taxing our system.
Absolutely.
And there's got to be a way to quantify that. Do you have that ability?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's something I think we're going to have to start looking for is what we're very successful in annexation. We're very strategic at it. And I think we have full support of that. But the cost to doing that is on, first responders, public services. And I just want us to be able to say, what is the impact on our first responders from annexation? Because it's got to have a budget impact. And can we tie those two together with the technology to kind of download that pretty easily? That's all I have. Oh, the decrease between 23 and 24. So police went down, fire went up.
Yeah, the police calls have gone down, the fire
Okay.
has gone up.
I'm wondering if that was because we don't have a Helene this year,
That's-
right? And that'd be the quickest thing I
That would
look
be the
for in the
quickest.
difference. Okay, all right, thank
How many
you.
calls do we do during Helene? You gotta.
It was like 6,200,
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Dow. Yes, Councilmember DeWorke.
Yeah, I love seeing the statistic, the 96%, within 10 seconds. Obviously, anyone with an emergency knows that seconds are minutes, minutes are hours.
Absolutely.
And so really appreciate seeing that. I unfortunately have had, I have done 911 more than I ever wanted to have in my life, but these things happen. One thing that I think might be, I know it's really weird, but one thing that I think would be.
We didn't ask, we weren't judging.
I have a neighbor that's, no. I think it would, I don't know what protocol is. I don't know if I'm asking something that's not, protocol, but I think it'd be helpful as you're talking to the 911, operator, that if the dispatch has occurred, that the caller knows that.
Yes, sir.
And so I don't know what we do typically, but just as someone who has used it, had that operator said, at some point, we have notified dispatch, let me get some more, maybe you do that, maybe you don't, maybe I'm just, the few times I've called, that hasn't happened to me, so would love to be able to take a look at that.
We do, so we do have some people that'll just, they'll yell out, just send them, or however that, we do assure them that dispatch is on the way. A lot of the operators, if the crime is going on at that moment, they're gonna continue to ask those qualifying questions. And, you do that or take the time to say, okay, hey, they're on their way, and then we've had that happen, and then people hang, and you're like, oh, I still need information.
Gotcha.
So it kind of closes that call, and we don't want that call to be
Yeah.
closed. But yeah, we try to reinsure people
Okay.
if they do start asking, just,
Cause like, I know how impatient I was thinking, are they coming? Like, what,
No, I mean, that's the big thing is, a lot of times from the time that the phone's picked up to the time the first officer is assigned, it's like a minute and 45 seconds,
Yeah,
or 2 minutes. So it's not a big delay there.
Yeah.
A lot of that is that ring time that comes in, or that processing time of, okay, they're pulling up the call, they're reading the call, make sure anything's going to the right place.
I can see that argument too, of what, if you tell someone they're on the way, then suddenly they're late. So maybe it's a case by case.
And a couple years ago, we kind of realized, we tell them they're on the way and they just immediately.
Oh, wow, well, that's not helpful either.
We still need some more information
Yeah.
if they leave and things like that, so.
Yeah, that's not helpful either. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from council?
Great job, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
thank you.
would just say that, y'all do an amazing job, and thank you for everything that you do. And, if you have to call 911, you never think you're gonna have to do it until you have to do it. And then you're so glad to have someone on the other end who is comforting, who is caring, who is friendly. And y'all do a really good job at that, so thank you. And I wanted council to have an opportunity, last year we brought
Oh, we
patrol.
have?
Yes. And
Oh,
so
good,
to-
awesome.
Yes, Dustin introduced the team.
I'm sorry, I was late. Good to see
But
everybody.
I think it's good for y'all to get to meet different parts of our organization and to learn about different parts of our organization. If you haven't seen their new dispatch center, at Halton Road, I hope y'all are enjoying it. I think yes, okay, good.
Well,
They want the window.
but really in the context of what the cage they used to keep y'all in, to me, is when I think about where y'all were before calling 911,
Real quick, now that, since y'all are here, you are a lifeline to so many, obviously, emergencies, and I just can't thank you enough on
And
behalf of all the
non-emergency.
citizens.
Thank y'all for answering my granddaughter
I'm
and
sure.
sending a police officer to explain to her what 911 was. Was so exciting. You just clap.
Good job, everybody.
Thank y'all very much.
Shannon, on that, I'm speaking for my team here, because I hear from them, I talk to them about daily. Thank you for your support, Mayor and Council, of the new building, of the new communication center, because it is a world of difference for them. If you can imagine them coming to work before, no windows to the outside, they didn't know what was
I
going
was
on. They
worried
didn't-
about
Yeah, they didn't know if it was day or light, they didn't know if it was raining, or, well, today they probably wouldn't care. Now they've got that whole wall of windows they can
Yeah.
see. It's so much better for
That's
them,
good.
and they're so much happier coming to work. It's really good for our, I think, not only just their day-to-day business, but retention, and also, hiring people in when they come up there and see that nice, beautiful center and all the good equipment. I think it's really very beneficial. So thank you for your support on that.
Yeah. Good
And
to
I
meet
think
you.
Justin said the closest they've been to fully staffed in 4 years, so
Yes.
feels good. We want to
Awesome.
keep it that way. So everybody hear that. We want to keep it that way. All right, very good. Thank y'all
Thanks,
very much.
everybody, very much.
Appreciate y'all coming over.
Jason, while he was talking. so good stuff.
Thank y'all. All right, next item on our agenda this afternoon is an update on our City of Greenville Downtown Transportation Master Plan, Phase 2. And Clint, I think you're going to introduce the team, and then we're going to turn it over to David and HDR to kind of go through a lot of information about some planning efforts that we have for future transportation projects.
Thank you, Shannon, Mayor and Council. Pleasure to be here today, to talk to you about give you an update on our downtown transportation master plan. I'm just gonna say a few opening remarks and I'm gonna let David Harding, our project manager, who's been managing this second phase of the project. We'll let him kind of introduce our consultants with HDR. But HDR has worked with us on this project for both phases. We started, this planning effort, looking at transportation planning in our downtown area, back in 2018. Initially, we were envisioning this to be a single phase, planning study. Because of budget, we did break it into a couple of phases. We completed phase 1 in 2019. And we are in the final stages of phase 2 now. But basically, we've established a study area for what's essentially our core downtown business, area of the city. And we're studying just all things, transportation, whether it's vehicular transportation, bicycle, pedestrian, multimodal transportation. Looking at not only existing conditions, but looking 20 years into the future, what we expect out as Greenville's growing, how we expect traffic to increase in our downtown area. And ultimately, we're just resulting in project recommendations, areas of focus that we know we're going to need to be thinking about as time goes on and the city continues to grow, but also looking at just some of the immediate needs that we have in this area. So phase 1 identified a lot of what we call short-term projects. They were more immediate needs, projects that could be done in a relatively low cost, short time period. Some of it was as simple as just some restriping at intersections, crosswalks, restriping of lanes. There was other projects involving signalization and signal improvements and that sort of thing. And I believe that we're going to show an update on where we were, what we've done over the past 5 years with some of those project recommendations. Phase 1 also identified some of the key corridors that we knew we were going to need to do more detailed analysis of, and that were going to be corridors of focus as traffic continues to grow over the next 20 years. And that's really what phase 2 has done, is we've taken a deeper dive into some of those key corridors, like the Pete Hollis Boulevard, Church Street, Academy Street, that sort of thing. So with that, I'm going to let David Harding, he's been managing the second phase of the project, let him kind of take it over and introduce our consultants, HDR, and we're pleased to give you this update today.
And before David gets started, just want to make sure that we know that this operative word is planning documents
Yes.
for the future and projects that have not yet been funded. So just
Yes,
so for our media partners to know that these are for the future, this is a planning document.
Right.
These are
Thank-
not impending projects.
Thank you. Master plan is a planning level document.
But I don't know of very many plans we've had where so much has been done in phase
Right,
1.
that's right. That's right. And we'll
Big-
talk about
big-
that.
Yeah, big things and small things. So I think we can have a high degree of confidence. We'll probably find our way into phase 2.
We
yeah.
will.
Yeah, and with that said, I mean, this will inform future CIP requests. It will inform our coordination with GPATs and their long-range transportation planning efforts. Obviously, as we think about penny sales tax, either for the county or within the city, we're going to have a good basis of projects, recommendations that we can focus on.
Yes.
As those different initiatives take place.
Yes, very good. And they've done a great job. So David, welcome.
All right. Thank you all for having us here. We are excited to be here and talk about the results of the study. As Clint Shannon had mentioned, I am David Harding. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of working with, project manager within our traffic engineering division here at the city. With me is our engineering consulting team. We have Graham Malone and Brennan. They are going to be helping me with the results of the study here today. So with that, we'll jump into it. We do have a lot to cover. It's a very long and detailed report, a lot of good information, very little time today. So we're going to gloss over this. We're happy to come back and talk about anything that y'all may have more detailed questions about at the end of the report, in the presentation. So we'll jump into it, but I will lead us off with the study and purpose. So as Clint discussed, the phase one of the DTMP, as we call it, wrapped up in 2019 and really focused on short-term existing congestion and safety issues and short-term projects that we could undertake to address things here and now. As part of that project, we identified corridors and intersections that were of long-term importance, just long-term growth that the upstate is going through, and the traffic that comes with that and safety issues that come with that. It highlighted some areas for additional analysis, and that is the basis of phase two, DTMP 2, as we come to call it for brevity. So the purpose of this is to identify, first, to evaluate those areas that were previously identified, look at them under a finer microscope, and updated GPATS modeling information, just understanding what is happening in our area with the traffic and the growth that we're bringing in. So based on that, we evaluated the projects that were originally identified, or areas originally identified. From there, we started exploring alternative transportation modes and ways that we can address the issues that we foresee coming. And then ultimately develop a list of projects, long-term projects, to address what we anticipate is going to be happening, not only here and now that we see on a day-to-day commuting in and around the city, but long-term, what is going to be happening in our area and what projects can we identify and push forward to help address it before that time ultimately comes. Again, as Shannon has mentioned, this is a preliminary study effort. More detailed engineering analysis is needed before anything happens, but this is the roadmap, mind you, for what we're going to do ultimately going forward. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Brennan with HDR, and she's going to take us further into it.
All right, thank you guys so much for having me today. As David put it, we really took some time here to review phase one. And so we were able to review phase one projects that were identified during that first initial round in 2019, and then kind of take a look at that. We leaned into the existing conditions analysis that originated from phase one, but then we did also update and identify new data where needed to help inform decision-making processes moving into phase two. And then from that, we were able to really start assessing kind of a multimodal assessment of the transportation system throughout the study area, and start identifying some different needs that the study area may still have in phase two, and ways to potentially address those moving forward. I mentioned some of those kind of data updates that were strategically done to just kind of better inform phase two. This included updating any crash data, any traffic data needed for different intersections and along different corridors, pulling in the most recent travel demand model from the Greenville-Pickens Area Transportation Study, and kind of validating that and updating that as necessary to accurately represent the study area within the city of Greenville Downtown Transportation Master Plan. And then there was also a heavy phase two public involvement initiative as well. So we had a survey that was administered throughout the entire month of May. So people were able to go in and interactively drop points on maps. They were able to really highlight areas of concern, areas where they'd like to see projects initiated moving forward. And they were able to also attend a public meeting that was on May 15th, where there were a lot of interactive booths that were up where people could come in and kind of see either some of the different types of alternatives that might be considered during phase two, and then be able to just identify areas that maybe there were still concerns and places where they'd like to see some changes made in the future, and really highlight those moving forward. And then, as I mentioned, we had several different types of feedback we were soliciting, trying to get information about whether or not people support different types of alternatives, or if there are certain travel concerns in the area. And we did see some key areas identified. Some of them were, identified quite often. So in the survey alone, for example, we saw congestion, and congestion was identified at the Stone Avenue I-385 interchange. Church Street, Academy Street, Washington Street, and River Street. So those were identified on several occasions. And then we also had pedestrian navigation issues that were identified along Academy Street in North Main, East North Street and Stone Avenue, and along Church Street, Augusta Street, and Rutherford Street. And then in addition to that, just wanting to have some traffic signal coordination efforts, some updates to those as well. Were highly kind of common themes that appeared throughout those efforts. And so as previously mentioned, we did review phase one. And so we reviewed the phase one project list. As earlier mentioned, these were relatively short-term projects that could be implemented in a shorter time frame than maybe some of these phase two projects, which are identifying some long-term needs and projects that might have a longer-term implementation plan with those. Of the phase one projects, 28 have already been completed or are in the process of being completed right now. So that was taken into account moving forward. And throughout this effort, the city coordinated with everyone involved in the team to identify some very specific key areas of focus moving into phase two, where these long-term projects and alternatives were going to be kind of addressed, reviewed, and screened moving forward.
28 out of how many?
28 out of, I believe, and this is off the top of my head, so don't quote me on it, I believe it was out of 60.
Okay, good.
But this is just a list. I won't read it off for brevity since we do have a limited amount of time, but these are just
Okay,
some
go
of those.
ahead and tell, we want to make sure
Go
that
ahead
people
and tell
know
them.
which ones have been completed. That's okay.
Okay,
We
I'll
know
read
all
them
these
off.
really well, so we're.
I'll read them off. But yeah, some of the notable projects that are completed or underway are the cultural corridor improvements, the East North Street Gateway Project, Rutherford Road pedestrian hybrid beacon, the Lawrence Road and Stone Avenue dual left turn lanes onto I-385, expanded traffic signal interconnectivity within downtown, and then several different corridor signal timing updates. This included Academy Street, Church Street, Stone Avenue, and Lawrence Road, and then the Pendleton Street Road Diet and protected bike lanes, which I believe that is going through a CDOT project as well. So some continued recommended projects that were then pulled forward into phase two. These are projects that have not been implemented yet, but are being pulled forward into these phase two initiative now and were ranked alongside the long-term projects. Those included McDaniel Avenue, Woodland Way, and University Ridge, kind of in tandem with stuff that's happening right now around the University Ridge area, Main Street and Broad Street to East North Street, restricted left turns. I will note that this, in phase two, the area that the project extents were changed to kind of address needs that were updated between 2019 and now. So that took that to McBee Avenue to Coffee Street along Main versus its original project extents. And then Washington Street at McBee Avenue, which was a single lane roundabout, and then Buncombe Street at Academy Street, through lane to a shared through left lane.
Don't forget Augusta Street.
Oh, yes,
Where?
where?
No, Augusta should be on there.
So
The road.
There's a few should be on there, but.
Yeah, but that
This-
would have been in the original phase one list.
I don't think that was included. It was
Okay.
mentioned in terms of safety. That would be technically carried over, or is underway currently.
Yes,
So it's,
that was one of the 28
28.
or so
Okay.
projects, yes. And then in addition to that, there was one bicycle pedestrian and transit need project that had been in a separate list in phase one that's been pulled into phase two. And then another dynamic messaging sign project that was pulled over into phase two as well, which essentially was adding dynamic messaging signs into downtown. So as mentioned before, phase two, there were several key areas of focus that were identified moving into the phase two process for downtown transportation master plan. And you can see these were then mapped for the public engagement initiative. This is one of the boards that was up within that effort. But the key areas of focus are really four. That includes the I-385 and East Stone Lawrence Road interchange. The Church Street corridor from about Wade Hampton Boulevard down to Augusta Street. And then the North Academy Street at East North Street intersection and Pete Hollis Boulevard. And then within these, there were several interchanges or intersections that were, considered as that process moved along. And so at this point, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Graham, who will start talking you through some of the different alternatives that were considered moving forward.
Yeah, so we have a few slides that are kind of addressing some of the focus areas that were a part of the initial phase 2 scope. Church Street, US 29 being one of those. And as we started looking at the data and using some of the information that we had from phase 1 and new information from phase 2, you start to kind of get a picture of what's going on in the corridor. We know that the road itself is very constrained. There's a lot of existing buildings, properties, and very separated structures that would really limit this road from being widened in the future. So you start then looking at things like innovative intersection types to help try to improve some of the bottleneck intersections that you have on the corridor. And so that was how the focus kind of led us to some of the recommendations that are in that plan. So we started looking at things like, how can we take some movements out of traffic signals? Are there certain traffic signals where people are stopping today that may not actually be necessary? Are there some movements or particular connections that are perhaps redundant or not needed, or perhaps causing some more friction than we would normally like to see on a road that is as heavily traveled as US 29? So that is what is leading us towards some of the recommendations. And I'll walk through all of the ones so that we can see in detail. Kind of starting in the north end of the corridor, you have Church Street and Academy Street. This is a very heavily constrained intersection, like we've talked about. You get the cemetery on the southwest corner. You have very steep approach grades on the Church Street approach coming from further outside of downtown. And then there's some topography challenges as Academy Street, the north side of Academy, really falls off pretty abruptly once you're past the edge of the pavement and the sidewalk there. So what we ultimately have developed and has moved into the plan list are these 3 alternatives of varying design. Alternative 1 consists of what's called a partial median U-turn configuration. So the idea is that at the main intersection, as many of the left turn movements that we can take out have been removed, and instead they are directed down to a new traffic signal where a U-turn would take place, so that someone, instead of turning left, make a U-turn, come back to the main intersection and make a right turn. Alternative 2 is a more simplistic approach. This addresses the heavy left turn from Academy Street onto Church Street that takes place, spills back into some of the through lanes on Academy Street. The idea would be to add an extra turn lane onto Academy Street to allow for more storage and more capacity for that heavy load for that intersection times a day. And then alternative 3 is taking that second alternative one step further, adding a lane on Academy Street that extends from east-north to the Church Street traffic signal, through the traffic signal there, and then tapering back down before reaching Main Street. So that's a fairly robust improvement there, but is a more traditional intersection type. So each of these 3 alternatives are obviously still at the conceptual stage. The next step would be, if the city decides to move forward on making improvements to this intersection, you would want to go through the process of doing an alternatives analysis and then starting to get into engineering and design and conceptual layouts. Moving down to Coffee Street, this is a traffic signal that exists today, and the volumes at this intersection are relatively low compared to other traffic signals on the corridor. It's a stopping point for a lot of people that drive the corridor on a daily basis. The concept that's presented here would be to remove the signal and make Coffee Street a right in and right out access only. This does also free up some opportunities to extend right turn storage for the right turn onto east-north, which is the next traffic signal to the north. So you have a lot of people that are turning right there to go out towards 3 and 5. This does open up an opportunity to explore that. And there's still some provisions that could be introduced here, through the, design stage to maintain pedestrian activity and access, and things like that. So there are ways that we worked in, and then the signal would be removed. And then to the south is Church Street and Augusta Street. Again, the theme here is a very constrained intersection. It's also an atypical intersection. You can kind of tell from the picture, the approaches are skewed. It's not it's not laid out as a 90-degree intersection. The design that has been advanced into the planning study here is to make use of what's called quadrant intersection. So the certain left turn movements will be maintained at the traffic signal, but there are some that are have less volume on them. And those we think can be moved up to a secondary road at McKay. McKay would have to be signalized on either end, but those left turns could be displaced to that approach and taken out of the main traffic signal, which allows you to remove some of the signal phases and keep traffic flowing on the higher priority. Shifting gears a little bit to the second focus area is the East Stone Avenue, Lawrence Road, 385 interchange. We went through a pretty extensive process here where we looked at multiple interchange types. There are a lot of factors that play at this interchange that are unique. There's an existing creek that is running effectively through the middle of the interchange, which presents a pretty.
Which way are we looking? I'm so sorry.
North is to the top of the page.
So going into downtown is top of the page.
Going into downtown would be to the bottom left side of the image.
So I'm confused. I'm sorry.
I don't know what that thing is on the bottom.
I don't either.
Oh,
But I
that's
get
just
the
a
picture at the
schematic
top.
of one of the.
Which road's which? What are we looking at?
I-385 goes this way.
Conceptual plan with the area.
Sorry. The bot, thank
The
you.
conceptual.
Yeah.
The
I
conceptual
know the
plan,
top.
so this is generic, yeah, it's a generic idea.
Oh.
Of interchange types, yeah. Sorry about that.
For your knowledge, 385 is the north-south,
Okay,
that's the overpass bridge. You
Okay.
would bring it all into one signal as opposed to having two.
oh, okay.
So it's
Okay.
Currently in.
Well, I guess the idea is, of course, is to get
Gotcha.
people on 385 because that's what they're trying to do, where they get backed up Lawrence and backed up Stone.
And through Lawrence Stone
It's a
too,
real
right?
mess there now.
Three signals in very close
Okay.
proximity.
All right. Sorry, thank you.
No, yeah, you're welcome. Glad we could clear that up. So we did look at quite a few interchange types. The three that we have advanced are here on the left-hand side. So traditional diamond, this is effectively what a traditional diamond is today. So it looks like a diamond layout. And this is a fairly minor type of improvement since it's already laid out this way. You're talking about adding certain movements, maybe adding some turn lanes, using what's already there basically to get a little bit more out of it. The single point urban interchange, or a SPUI, is a type of interchange. This is what this is, and this is what we've been talking about. So right now you have two traffic signals on Stone Avenue and Orange Road. The SPUI removes both of those and replaces it with one centralized traffic signal.
14 and 85.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. There are a few of those around the state, so they're not uncommon. And then the third option is to explore a way to create a flyover ramp for that heavy left turn from Stone Avenue onto 385 southbound, which backs up today. If that movement is displaced above and grade separated above the interchange, that would effectively remove quite a bit of the problems that are happening at the intersection on a regular basis. And the last corridor that I'll talk about is Steve Hollis Boulevard, Buckle. The lane reconfiguration into something that is more of a context-sensitive, complete street. Right now, the corridor is 6 lanes wide. There is potential and support to look at taking a lane in each direction away to then repurpose it for something that's more accommodating to, alternative modes. So you could have transit routes and pull-offs to stations. You could have, expanded pedestrian facilities like you can see on cultural corridors, a lot of options that you can do with something like that. And those types of cross-sectional details will be worked out in a feasibility study. But Our analysis does support the idea that taking a lane from each direction for use in another way would be advantageous and could be done from a traffic flow perspective.
And then I'll take this back to discuss prioritization. As we mentioned earlier, several different alternatives were weighed and slowly narrowed down into kind of a final list, which was then run through several prioritization criteria. These were aligned with the existing GPAT's Horizon 2040 Long Range Transportation Plan. They will be updating that in the future, but this is the active plan that's running right now. So it was aligned with their performance measures that are within that plan. And so that included some criteria such as system reliability, safety, community impacts, economic impacts, and then different public engagement impacts as well. And then beyond that, some additional performance measures were added into the mix that helped to kind of further align these projects with the city of Greenville's priorities as well. And so this included some multimodal accessibility performance measures that we added to that, and then flood impacts as well, since some of these projects have some unique creeks and different situations involved in them. We added that as a criteria moving forward. And then another assessment was on what the system would function like with the projects actually implemented. So as we mentioned earlier, the Greenville Pickens area transportation study travel demand model was something that we collected in phase 1. And then again, moving into phase 2, we validated that. We updated it as necessary for the study area. And then as soon as we had this list of alternatives, we added those in and ran them through it to see what the system would function like if they were to be implemented. And so this is that map here showing kind of how the system would function. And so you can see that you end up having like Pete Hollis Boulevard is functioning at a level of service C. Main Street is actually shown to improve traffic flow in some of these areas based off of the limiting of left turns. And so ultimately it ended up having an overall improvement of the level of service in the corridor or within the service area.
The left-hand turns on Main Street, I'm so sorry, we're just on downtown Main Street or?
That was the
North
section
End.
between McBee and Coffee.
Gotcha. Oh, yes, sorry, okay.
Restricting left off of Coffee or restricting onto Main, lefts
Off
onto Main?
of Main Street onto, so that would include McBee, so you could not make a left from Main Street onto.
McBee.
It would help keep
flow,
traffic
yeah.
through that section.
Within that Coffee Street, McBee to Coffee Street.
And that's primarily from a pedestrian safety standpoint as well.
And but coming the other way, coming down the street, we have lefts currently on North Street.
Yes.
That would remain probably or not?
They would remain.
That would remain.
Yes.
And then after the projects were run through this prioritization criteria, we have the weighted scores here to the side. And the weighted scores, what I mean by this is that we added, in addition to just the traditional ranking, so for each criteria, we had like a certain amount of points that could be awarded. We then weighted certain criteria by a certain percentage based on the priority level to the city. And so with that weighted score, we ended up with these scores to the right. And so we ended up with the left turn restrictions, the Main Street from McBee to Coffee. Those were short term. And again, these were pulled from phase 1. So these are the phase 1 short term projects. We ranked those as well, which had always been a process that was going to occur in phase 2. We ranked those and we ended up with the Main Street from McBee to Coffee as 1, McDaniel Avenue and Woodland Way, University Bridge as 2, Buncombe Street and Academy Street, eastbound access to Academy. Alternative 1 as 3, Washington Street at McBee's 4, dynamic messaging signs as 5, and then McDaniel Avenue Trail is 6.
I'm sorry, McDaniel Avenue Trail is what? What is that?
That was originally pulled in from the bike fill, the 2011 bike fill.
Two thousand and eight Trails and Greenway.
Are some of those gonna drop off? I mean, I see them scoring high, but
And again, those are just the short-term projects that were carried over from phase one, so that's all that's remaining.
I think what I'm getting lost on is like McDaniel, Woodland and University Ridge is not in the downtown. So I'm confused as to why it's in the DT.
It was within the study
Included
area.
in the study that one's from a pedestrian and trail standpoint.
Okay.
It is very much on Kalen's radar, and they have been working on that. But again, these are just the short-term carryovers from the previous one.
That's a good question.
Continue. We'll go back to questions at the end.
Sounds good. And then the long-term projects that were weighed throughout throughout phase two, the weighted score can be seen here. We had the,
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So
Have any
East
questions?
Park Ave to Church Street, okay. All right, go ahead, sorry.
Are you gonna call 911, John?
Oh my gosh. Keep going, sorry.
We don't have to go through, I mean, this is just talking about long-term planning
Okay.
Yes,
projects.
yes.
We don't have to go through every single one of
Okay.
these.
But yeah, so we ended up with several projects in the long-term project that all of these are also available within that planning document. These are all very conceptual in nature right now and will definitely involve future studies moving forward. But we ended up with the weighted scores for those here as well. And then implementation moving forward, continued coordination will definitely be required to try to implement these within the GPATS Horizon 2050 master plan moving forward. That should be starting to move forward soon and will be updated probably within this next year. And then it will involve coordination with both GPATS and SCDOT moving forward. And then there's also an opportunity to leverage several different types of funding, such as federal, state, and local discretionary funds moving forward as well.
Cool.
Thank you very
Good
much.
job, thank you.
And yes, I'm gonna go to questions in just a second, but just remember, I would equate this to thinking as Greenville 2040 plan. It's a plan, it's a long-term plan. It's ideas for the future. A lot of these projects, there are some short-term projects, but there are a lot of long-term projects on here that would require feasibility studies to see if they're even, what it would take to even implement them, the engineering, what it would take to actually be able to do the design, and then most importantly, the funding and how are we gonna pay for it? So with that, I will turn it over to questions. Councilmember Dow was first, and then Councilmember DeWorke, Councilmember Dow.
When did you come on board the city, David?
3 years ago.
Okay, so this might have predated you. Clint, the Church Mills Augusta intersection, which is also not in the downtown, but I'll set that aside. Is that a trigger, is that a traffic mitigation trigger from the County Square project? I know Dunbar is the first trigger, but I'm thinking that intersection gets triggered for traffic mitigation, maybe, as part of County Square. And you don't have to
I don't
answer.
think it was a traffic mitigation project for County Square. It has been identified as, that intersection's been identified in several different, other studies, the Augusta Street
Yeah,
study we
no,
did.
Definitely
South
room for
Downtown
improvement.
Infrastructure and traffic study. So that is an intersection that has been identified through a number of different studies.
If, and that seems to kind of score low on the chart you have, but if that one started bubbling up, you know, to me, where County Square is.
I
is
believe
kinda
County
bubbling.
Square's plan did recommend to remove some of the median to extend the dual left turns off of Church Street onto Augusta.
Okay,
There was a minor modification, but not a full reconstruction of the intersection or redesign of the intersection.
okay.
And to answer your question on the downtown, the study limits are expanded beyond our just CBD core
I'm
limits.
gonna have to find another acronym for it. Sorry, I'm going through my questions here. Does our work to ask for roads back, and there were a few, but I feel like one or two of them might have fallen in with this, that kind of comes into play, doesn't it, with something might have scored slightly lower, but if we own part of the road, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Correct.
Okay. That intersection at Woodland Way, McDaniel and University Ridge, a very complicated intersection that we talked about ad nauseum back in the around 2018, 2019, and that whole roundabout, I mean,
Yep.
got it. I only say, because it looked like it scored highly, but we've had a lot of discussions on that already, and I would want to kind of revisit those before we slow down too much on it.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember DeWorke.
Real quick, if I had a drum, Clint, do you know what I'm gonna start drumming? Is at some point, we, GPAT, state, everybody, we have to do something about Red Lobster. Because I'm telling you,
The intersection at Red
Yes.
Lobster. The business,
business is great.
no harsh on Red Lobster.
I love Red Lobster.
Christmas back.
I love my Red Lobster. But I'm convinced that Pleasantburg should be well, I've been told that Pleasantburg at one point was supposed to be the bypass.
To
And that,
get the TR.
Years ago, that's. what
yep,
they
and
said.
so what happens now at the east-north intersection and Wade Hampton Boulevard intersection, it is just, the Wade Hampton one is fully designed and then east-north, east-south. Anyway, I'm convinced that we get a lot of traffic going through our city that otherwise should be taking that bypass, but they don't.
To
So
get to
any help you can do with the
So
GPAT,
GPAS is starting their long range, an update to their long range transportation plan. They're starting it at the end of this year. It'll probably be about a year-long planning process, but it's going to reevaluate all the projects.
will you help us beat
And,
that drum?
I fully expect that project to move up very high.
Okay.
Are there gonna be
The regional
public meetings?
Yes, there'll be a lot of public meetings.
Because one of the things that has always disturbed me is that if we want people to go
Yeah.
somewhere, we'd have to explain it to them in simple terms about the number of minutes they will save coming this way, the stops they will not make and stuff like, things that they understand and how they can get there. If we do that, then we give them the power to help make decisions and not to complain and to slow process these down.
That was a big part of the Church
Church
Street
Street
Bridge.
Bridge.
Oh,
And
tell me
Beth and
about
her team did a wonderful job.
To
Great job.
And to y'all's effort of getting 85 traffic heading towards Greer, staying on 85 versus you using Church Street. And you did that with signage, right? And we're hoping that continues. To me, this is very similar. Exit off Pleasantburg to get to TR
Yeah.
with signage. It's just changing a sign.
Well,
And then, but I know we don't control those signs, but that sign, that behavioral change.
That's
made
right.
Church Street so much smoother.
I could not agree with
Using
you
common
more.
sense.
We just got vetoed with people up there.
Yeah.
At least we have an example of
Yeah.
where we put it into play.
But it's always in play. I
Yeah.
mean, they were very kind and like, let's just work on things. So,
All right, thank y'all very much. We appreciate it. I think that, a couple of big takeaways obviously are that, you saw that we completed 28 of the projects from phase one. And to the mayor's point earlier, that we do our projects through our plan, and then what projects do we want to focus on coming out of phase two? And where are some short-term projects that could have some immediate impact. So thank y'all very much. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Great job.
It can get very down in the weeds when we start talking about traffic engineering. I hope y'all enjoyed it because
No, it's good. Yeah.
team coming up in the next,
Yeah.
you just wait till November 10th.
Thank y'all.
All right, well, Kaylin, to bring us home today.
Land the plane, land the plane.
Other than our airport small area plan for our airport area, maybe our most popular project to date that I've seen with the public.
Oh, yeah.
And so always like to end us on a very positive note. So Kaylin and Jeff are here to give us the latest update on our Wheel Sports Park. Am I getting it right?
It is anything close to that, we will say
Okay.
yes to.
All right.
So yeah, Wheel Sports, which again, that's gonna scratch a lot of itches. That's a skate park, that's a pump track, that's a bicycle playground, that is trail connectivity. And that is building upon what the airport has already established with their community corridor. And so a lot of people are familiar with the area. Quick look at the schedule here. We have been diligently working since June. We had some preliminary stuff in the spring, officially kicked off in June, and we are here at the Pink Line, and we have always been chasing kind of a February timeline, working backwards from that point. So at February, we're hoping that we have really pretty pictures, a really good cost estimate, and we have kind of a direction into what will migrate into like proper construction drawings, and then into construction, obviously after that. And so just to rehash where we're talking about for those that maybe haven't been out there in a while, project site is here in pink. Swamp Rabbit Trail green line that follows Lawrence Road is here in green. And we are looking at a roughly triangular piece of property. It's about 10 acres we're leasing from the downtown airport. They have been an excellent partner in this process. And they're actually helping us not only with acquiring where we're going to build it, they're actually helping us with conversations with the FAA. We've already had some really positive conversations with them. And that we're walking kind of hand in hand with them. So that's been a really successful thing. The site as a whole is 10 acres, but I want to make aware, if you've been out there, you've probably noticed that there are some trees, there's some grade, there's some difficulty, and obviously there is a functioning airport right next to it. And so there are some do's and don'ts that we have to do there. So within that 10 acres, we have about 5 acres that's like really developable for what we want this park to be. And then we have some ancillary pieces of property that we're going to utilize in various ways that you'll see. We have had some really, really successful public input. We've been working with the stakeholder committee of folks that like to skate, like to bike, we even have a rollerblading team that have been involved. And we have had a number of touch point meetings with them. We have about 19 community members that have been directly plugged in, and we've met with them both in kind of an informal setting. We've given them previews for everything that we are taking to the public meetings to get feedback from them directly. And then our consultants have went to local skate spots. And so Poe Mill is kind of the crown jewel of Greenville skate culture. And we want to make sure that we're talking to the people that are going to be utilizing this and understanding what they find important. We've had 2 public meetings. The first public meeting we had just up from the project site at the hangar space, which is going to be, that space right there is the old Runway Cafe. I believe is going to be seeing a new restaurant soon. But we had probably the best showing of any public meeting I've ever put on. Here we had about 200 people float in. It was shoulder to shoulder. This was very early on in there, but it was like standing room only for sure. We got a lot of really great input. Everybody was super excited about it, and that showed through not only from the meeting, but in the online survey that we held as well. So we had a online survey that Beth's team helped us build. That was open for about 3 weeks, and we got some really, really great input. We saw about 16,000 responses on that survey alone. And again, just overwhelmingly positive. And we got some input like, make sure there's shade. We want to make sure we're designing for all user types, for all ages and abilities.
So what it looks like, and I just want to interrupt real quick, but what it looks like, it feels like it might be a specialty project or a niche project. You have that amount of feedback, just shows you how much demand there is for the skate park and the pump track. Okay, sorry.
So second meeting, and I'll go into detail about what we were talking about at that second meeting in a second, but it was very similar. We had a little less showing for that. Typically when we kick these projects off, people are super excited, and then we have kind of less turnout, but we did have really good response online still. And what we were doing was kind of going through an iteration of, we provided 3 drastically different ways that we could attack the site, and we were trying to get feedback about what people did and did not like about this particular thing. And so the goal was to take those 3 iterations and kind of hybridize it into a 4th something that had bits and pieces from each of them. So the 3 concepts that they came up with, they kind of approached the site in a bunch of different ways. Concept 1, they nicknamed the Beam. It kind of functioned as more of a centralized gathering space that had a pathway that kind of surrounded it. 2 points of access, an entry drive that kind of circled the site. And then it kind of was a more consolidated look at where the wheeled sports activities were actually going to be happening. Option number 2, they nicknamed the Bend. Had a little bit more of a distributed gathering space area. It was focused in the parking along Airport Road itself, and so not bringing parking and car activity into the site. And then it also kind of positioned the gathering spaces to kind of overlook the airport and take advantage of what we were building next to. And then the third opportunity, the bar, kind of looked at it as an opportunity to maybe establish multiple levels of the site. And so thinking of more of like a terraced approach and kind of separating the user types a little bit more. And again, so the intent was to actually get parts of all of these and kind of blend it. But what we heard was actually the bend number 2 scratched a lot of itches for a lot of people. And so we didn't really need to reinvent the wheel. And so from this, we've been kind of fine tuning into a more streamlined version of the site. And so my consultants right now are working on fine tuning this. All the graphics that you're going to see are in progress. And so there's going to be a lot of really good and exciting stuff to see at the public meeting. This is by no means what you will see at the public meeting, and there's a lot of stuff yet to visualize. But you know, the site itself is positioned right in that 5 acres that I was talking about. A big scope item for the project is providing the trail connectivity for the Swamp Rabbit Trail green line there at the Keith intersection. We've heard for years that there needs to be at least a sidewalk connection up to Runway Park. And so we're actually going to be building a trail connection to Runway Park, the putt-putt course, and then obviously feeding this park. And this is going to set the stage for the Airport Loop Trail project that we're getting ready to kick off as well. That was one of the major projects that came out of the airport planning study that Shannon mentioned at the beginning.
So forgive me, but what made people like the Bend so much more than the other two?
So I have a full download of that stuff that I can send you if you'd like to see some.
Summarize it.
So the way that the different uses kind of blended together, the opportunity to connect the 2 uses. There's a lot of people that use both skate park facilities and pump track facilities. And so being able to float between the 2, but also have the separation when they want it. This particular one provides an opportunity for a warm-up area, which a lot of people, if you're going to skate, it's just like stretching before the gym. You got to have an area to kind of, you know, get your body ready for it. And then also, I think the general layout and access for the parking lot, a lot of people trended towards, because you're going to be, if you're driving there, you're going to be using Airport Road to get there. And so having kind of a direct and easy way to pull in and out. It also functioned a lot better from an event standpoint. So we're working through programming with them for, you know, some of our youth programs, but also the opportunity to maybe host a movie night or have music out there, what have you. You know, food trucks pulling in, it provides a lot of benefits.
Okay, cool, thank you.
And so you can see the site kind of starting to take shape here, and we do have some structures. We do have some shade structures. Shade was one of the principal things that we got feedback from. And so as we learned from Unity Park, you know, people are not always can wait 5-10 years to get shade from the trees that we're going to be planting. They need some shade now. And so we're not only planning for the folks that are going to be using this, we're using this as kind of an opportunity for gathering. And we understand that there are going to be parents there watching their children do it, but it's also going to provide a new experience for folks that are on the trail. It's going to be a pit stop. We're going to have trailhead locations where you can have water stations, park your bike for a while, and learn about maybe a new activity to get plugged into something active in the city. So you can see the beginning of the Airport Loop Trail kind of coming into shape, wrapping around, connecting up. And then from more of a personal level here, you can kind of see shade structures starting to take shape. And, you know, we do have a really nice flat site to work with. And so there'll be some opportunities to kind of build topography as we kind of push dirt around. That will provide some really nice green spaces. If you remember from the picture from the stakeholder, there are 2 towers that are part of Poe Mill. And so we're starting to figure out how we can start to bring some of the culture, some of the pieces of the Poe Mill skate park into this site. So this is kind of a hat tip to those chimneys, starting to think about some iconic pieces like that as well. And then, you know, starting to think about some of the approaches as we're coming into the skate park. We have that batch of trees that we are going to be reserving there, hopefully getting some natural surface trails that will feed into the park. But as you're coming off of the trail, you're going to have kind of a vista approach coming down into the park and providing some really good scenic views from there, as well as from the Swamp Rabbit Trail, which will be peeking out from behind those trees there. So within the site itself, we do have a couple of structures that we are studying right now. We have kind of a multi-purpose space structure. We have restrooms, obviously, to serve the park. Those are going to be going through the process of cost estimating and material studies and all of that, but we are looking at kind of form and function. And the goal here is to provide both an enclosed space and just a covered space for protection that will provide a really nice shaded area and also set the stage for, maybe a literal stage if we wanted to have a music venue type scenario here overlooking a green space and then people skating in the background. It kind of provides that opportunity there. And so start to play with roof line shapes and forms and yeah, so that's where we're at with it. The next steps for that is that we are working really hard to hit this December 9th deadline. So that's the third and final public iteration within this concept level. Up to that point, we're going to be finishing the hybrid concept, which is really the fine tuning that number 2, the bin concept. And then we'll be doing some cost estimating exercises as well as we approach that kind of February timeline. And then once we hit that February timeline, we'll have a decision point where we can start working into that engineering.
And then we'll go in from there, the engineering would go into actual design. All of this right now is just graphics to show what it could look like as we go into the design. So we will be refining that, working that more as we actually have a project to design. But right now, trying to get there so that we can start talking about budget, because that would be the next thing. So I see a lot of hands up. Councilmember Fleming, you were first. Councilmember Gibson.
Yes, I just want to ask about the community input meeting. Has this information, or is it going to the neighborhood communities? Because oftentimes, a lot of them, haven't said very, they don't have a lot of kids that come to the meetings or people who are interested. But when you go into the neighborhood, they have the interest. And so if at least we can send a flyer or something to those neighborhoods, all of them know to have that input, because that make a whole big difference. I invited some kids to one meeting and it made all the difference in the world in looking at the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gibson.
I understand there are a lot of variables, and I understand there's still a lot of engineering and planning and stuff that has to take place, but given the timeline that we're sort of on now, when do we think we're probably gonna be breaking ground on?
Open early 27.
Early 27?
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, understanding that there are a lot of variables and all this, all this thing, when do we think that it may be done?
I would say early to mid 28 would be the goal.
Okay, all right, thank you.
When you can start skating.
I know.
Sorry.
And a lot of helmets and pads and some better health insurance.
All right, Councilmember Dow.
I will say this, before anything is shown in the third public meeting, assuming you're saying you have consensus on the bend, it was the bean, the bar, the bend, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are elements that I suspect would not be allowed by FAA that have been in this presentation. And I get concerned about showing things and having great ideas and visions that will never fly, because this land is owned by the Airport Commission. And the FAA has to approve anything that's contemplated here. And I don't want to raise false hope or expectation for something that will not fly. No pun intended.
No.
So just a cautionary tale on that.
If I could respond real quick, we did have a preliminary meeting, showed them these concepts, and there's nothing that stood out.
But we will.
Every month is a different month,
Yeah.
Kaylin.
We still need to make the official submittal, but that
Right.
could be finished.
In other words, they are not submitting for official approval until you have narrowed down the bean, the bend, the bar, and that's when the rubber hits the road. I also would not expect a typical turnaround. I don't know, maybe I'm being a pessimist, but a lot of people aren't working right now, so, that's gonna come into play for approvals. We have to be careful about things like music, light, sound, height, things like that. Is there a connection, and maybe this is the loop, but I'm having trouble. If I wanted to go the most direct route to the Green Line from the park, is the only way to do it by going back up to the old Runway Cafe and getting there by Airport Road?
We're also going to be studying a pathway or at least a sidewalk on Airport So, but yeah, there, it's gonna be kind of consolidated right there.
Okay, because we can't go straight across because of that creek?
It's private property as well, so.
Oh, that's not part of airport. Oh, okay, well, that's a good reason. All right.
Be right to that kind of question.
Are you, anything else?
No,
Council?
that's-
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor.
Just kudos to staff, and a lot of attention went in early on this to just look at these parks around the country. There are a lot of reasons every city I could think of is in this business now, skate parks. We just saw one in Boise, very small one, a great one in Birmingham that was a real inspiration. But most of the ones that I'm aware of anyway, and I think our committee's been out there looking around, many of them are site restricted in terms of the size and this kind of thing. And I think this site is particularly nice, and it's almost, it's a complete blank slate to work on. So that's where we can have all these different options, in fact. And I think that's a real advantage we're going to have. I assume, again, just to reiterate something, that this will be a public-private partnership, and we need a lot of private support for this. Good news is we've had a lot of early indications that it looks pretty good, kind of almost surprisingly good. So that's important. And second, is it a phased kind of project that we're still looking at, or would it all be built kind of one time?
All at one time.
All at one time, because they're all interconnected, is that
Yes,
the
sir.
reason?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at it as a holistic, everything all at the same time.
But these have what we learned from these other cities, have a terrific impact on attracting talent to the communities. There's maybe none of us in this room will be on those tracks, but there's a lot of people out there. And they take Semper can get you. And if John DeMorgan's on it, we better call 911. That's gonna be a problem, but it's amazing how these just become a part of the whole ecosystem of talent and in the tech world in particular. You don't think that, but yeah, that's what's really going on is, so it's more than just general recreation, though it is certainly that, but it really attracts a great group of folks that you want to have in your community. And so that's why this is kind of taking a life of its own, if you will.
A lot more to come. This is just the beginning, a lot more to come, but thank you, Kaylin and Jeff.
Good job.
Thanks,
We
guys.
appreciate it. And the big thing is to make sure that the public knows and is aware, and we'll email all of our neighborhood contacts about the community meeting on December 9th.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Mayor, with that, we are ready to move into
Okay.
executive session,
All
sir.
right, what do we have? Let me have motion second first. Motion second.
All right, thank you. Y'all have just 4 items to discuss this afternoon in executive session. There's a update on contract negotiations related to the downtown Greenville Hospital Center, federal grant applications and agreements and card certifications, legal advice on that, boards and commissions updates, update on negotiations and acquisition process for property in Greenmont Sparkburg. So moves. Thank you.
Got the motion second. That's good news.
Aye.
That's my.